So welcome. We're going to talk about Israel, unicorns, ecosystem, and we will try to make it very dynamic, so the speakers, the panelists, and we have people connected directly from Israel. I will present them. But first, before we start, how many people know the Israeli ecosystem of innovation? Okay. One more question before we start. Anybody knows how many unicorns there are in Israel? More than 10? More than 50? No. More than, how much?
No.
No. We have in Israel 97 unicorns. But anybody knows how many decacorns we have in Israel? You know what is a decacorn? It's 10 billion. We have, I think, 2 or 3. So we're going to talk about this today. And we have a fantastic panel. From far away, we have Jeremy from Startup Nation. He will present himself. Jeremy, thank you for... We have Ilana from Pearlcoin in Tel Aviv. We have Noah. She's the commercial attaché of the the Embassy of Israel in Spain, and Isaac Chacon, who is the general manager for Iberia of our crowd. And we're going to talk about these kind of things. So let me, maybe, Jeremy, you can start just 2 minutes presenting yourself and Startup Nation Central, what it is and what it does.
Hi, so thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry I could not be with you guys today. Startup Nation Central is a non-profit. We are based in Tel Aviv. We have a dedicated building, and we have about 110 employees. We're a non-profit organization, an NGO technically, mapping the Israeli ecosystem of innovation. So we have this website called the Startup Nation Finder. You're invited to consult it. It's an online database of all of the 7,000 startups in Israel, VCs, large companies around the world. And we also help large companies around multinationals to navigate and get Israeli innovation. We work with large NGOs, with governments, etc., etc.
Thank you, Jeremy. Isaac, si puedes presentarte.
Ok, soy el director de desarrollo de negocio para España y Portugal de Acrad, y a su vez soy director de innovación de Sakut Innovation Hub. Somos un fondo israelí que ha invertido hasta el momento 2.4 billones americanos. Tenemos 37 fondos. Hemos invertido más de 330 empresas. En total, tenemos 5 incubadoras de altas tecnologías en Israel, y hasta el momento hemos hecho 57 exit, ventas de empresas a empresas multinacionales. Y dentro de Sakut de Innovación, nosotros hemos montado en Murcia un hub donde apoyamos a emprendedores con formaciones y mentorizaciones israelíes para los emprendedores que están ahí, donde le apoyamos a la empresa en todo su proceso.
I'm not going to translate all that. No way. But thank you, Isaac. But Noah, if you please.
Noah Heinemann. I'm the Director of Economic and Trade Mission at the Israeli Embassy here in Spain. I'm representative of the Israeli Ministry of Economy and Industry. I'm here with our team. We have 3 people in our team. What we do is we assist Israeli technologies to work here in Spain. We create opportunities, we create activities. We work a lot with the Spanish companies looking for technology. We do scouting for them, and we organize meetings. We participate in exhibitions with Israeli companies, etc. Our services are free of charge, so you're welcome to contact me or one of the people in our team, and we would be happy to get to more Spanish companies interested in connecting with Israeli companies.
Thank you very much, Noah. And we have Ilana, and she's a surprise because one of our speaker or panelists at the last minute could not make it. So Ilana, thank you for this last minute.
My pleasure. A great
And
example of the Israeli
Yes. So please, if you
Flexibility.
spontaneity. Okay, my name is Ilana Soloducho. I'm a partner at Cohen Law Firm. I'm also the co-head of the Spanish and Latin America department. I'm born and raised from Uruguay. I was a lawyer in Uruguay, and 15 years ago, I went to Israel and started a new life. I'm a lawyer in the high-tech scene since then, and we at Cohen work hardly in order to get the Spanish and the Israel ecosystem closer. And we are true believers of the intersection between the two ecosystems, and me being here is proof of that.
Thank you very much, Ilana. And myself, I have two hats. I'm the chairman of Kadumen Capital. We are a European VC with offices in Madrid and Tel Aviv. We are the largest investor of Spain in Israel. We are in our second fund. The first fund was 60 million euros. The second fund is going to be about 80. We're about halfway there. We have invested already in 21 Israeli companies. We've been investing in Israel, the team, for about 10 years. My other hat is a pro bono hat. I'm the president of the Spanish-Israel Chamber of Commerce, and we work with all of you to get to know the Israeli ecosystem. So you have a good set of people to get to know and to see what we can do. So the first question, and I don't want to wait until the end for questions. So if anybody, do we have a microphone somewhere? Yeah, okay. So if there is any question, please go ahead. The first question will go for Isaac. I'll do that in Spanish. Isaac, con tu gran experiencia de muchos años trabajando tanto en España como en Israel, ¿puedes hablar un poco de cuáles son las características que hacen especial y puntero el ecosistema israelí?
La característica muy importante es lo que como te he dicho, tenemos un ecosistema de innovación y emprendimiento muy maduro, donde tenemos una combinación de la parte de gobiernos y la parte privada. Y todo está alrededor y alineado para apoyar al emprendedor para que tenga éxito. Es decir, eso es lo que se traduce, que el emprendedor, la empresa startup, se dedica a lo que él sabe, su know-how y su conocimiento de crear empresas de alto potencial disruptiva e innovación, y que el ecosistema le puede apoyar, ayudar. Si, por ejemplo, una empresa tiene una tecnología innovadora, disruptiva, pero su nivel de riesgo es muy alto para ir a un venture capital, para que inviertan en la empresa, tenemos una incubadora de altas tecnologías, donde apoyan a la empresa con 800,000 euros durante 2 años, hasta 1 millón de euros, para poder crear su empresa y llegue hasta un punto que sea atractivo frente a los inversores, para que después fondos de inversión como Kadumen o como de nosotros, como a nivel de ACRO, podría ya invertir, que es un fondo de inversión tanto nacionales e internacionales que vienen a Israel a poder invertir. ¿Por qué? Porque tenemos un venture capital muy activo y muy maduro, porque damos una gran rentabilidad a los inversores. Cuando la empresa también quiere tener contactos con la parte de cooperativas, en Israel tenemos más de 300 empresas cooperativas que el gobierno ha apoyado, ha ayudado para que se inserten en Israel, distintos programas. También existen más de 7 empresas cooperativas que tienen un sector de scouting. Es decir, ninguna empresa cooperativa respetable en el mundo no tiene un servicio de scouting. Cuando esta empresa quiere internacionalizarse y quiere ir a la parte internacional, existe el apoyo que existe. Justamente aquí tenemos a NOAA, que Israel Exportación Instituto, que apoya y ayuda en distintos eventos, actividades y da una presencia de las empresas a nivel internacional. Y también cuando hay una empresa que quiere, por ejemplo, Israel y que quiere ir a cualquier sitio, cualquier agregado comercial del gobierno, en el caso aquí en España, que quiere España, su canal de entrada. Y cuando la empresa quiere hacer su venta, su exit, que es el objetivo final de la empresa, está todo el canal y el ecosistema, y tenemos un marketplace en Israel de todos los compradores. Por lo tanto, apoyamos, ayudamos a los emprendedores, a las startups, que su tarea sea mucho más fácil en todo su proceso durante su vida y que el ecosistema le ayude. Y es una característica importante del ecosistema israelí.
Muchas gracias, Isaac. Just for you guys to have some numbers here, Israel early stage investment last year through VC was 25 billion. in 21. This is a fourth of what was the investment in Silicon Valley, and it's the highest per capita in the world. It's 2.5 times more than in the US per capita, 18 times more than in Spain, so you just to get the value. So Jeremy, you see a lot of European companies and international companies, and you have been around, and Startup Nation Central is key to the development. Any other thing you can add as what makes Israel this special hub of innovation?
Yes, of course. When you mention the amount of companies that are unicorns today, almost 100, if you dive into their specific DNA, you can also understand why there are so few DK unicorns. And one of the reasons is that the DNA of those companies is very tech-driven. And in Israel, those unicorns are, for most of them, B2B, and they don't address the market directly. They address the market through some partners, through some of those international companies, market leaders from all over the world. They come to Israel in order to bring value added to their own product and existing solutions. And so that's why we see so much companies that are less subject to competition and regulations than the average unicorns, the ones that are disrupting the model, but are using commodity technologies. You know, those marketplaces and Airbnb, Uber, BlaBlaCar, all of those companies that actually are unicorns, but they are not unicorns because of their technology, but mostly because of how they execute the use of the technology. In Israel, most of the companies are extremely deep tech, and that's actually a big difference. The second angle that I would like to talk about is the involvement of the government, which is very important, but not in terms of money. If you check the number that you gave, $25 billion, only $500 million is actually government money. So it's also from far the lowest involvement in terms of investments in the world in per capita of government money. Although Israel has one of the highest rates in terms of amount of R&D invested in per capita or percentage of GDP, still this is very little amount of government money. Probably in Spain, I don't know the numbers, are probably above 50% of public money, probably maybe even more. So that's really in a nutshell the two elements that makes Israel so special and specific.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.
I wish to add something.
Yeah, Noah wants to add something more here.
Please. So it's important.
Sorry, no, Jeremy.
It's important to understand that Israel is quite small, less than 10 million people, so the ecosystem is quite small. So companies, when they just start, they always think about working abroad, okay? And this is something that is very unique, and actually it really helped them during the corona pandemic, because they are already used to working abroad, they're already used to working online all the time and doing this kind of relationship. So I think this is also one of the characteristics that is contributing a lot to this situation.
Yeah. Noah, you have been in several countries and working around, and she speaks also Spanish. This is a very big asset. So in your view, and now that you've been in Spain for over a year or close to a year, what are the differences? What you see that you saw there and you don't see here?
Well, I have to say, I've been to China for 4 years, so it's very much different, of course.
A little bigger, not much?
I've been to South China, to Guangzhou, but yes, it's quite different. I think what we see here a lot, and I understand since I just got here 9 months ago, so I understand it's something that is relatively from the past year, that the country and companies are much more open to innovation. They understand that they need it. I think that a lot of companies also, touristic is a big thing in Spain, and they understand that maybe they need to develop also other areas and sectors. So we see more and more interest in Israeli technology, which is, from our point of view at the embassy, is great, because we see there is need, and so this is very good. The rhythm is quite different, though.
Rhythm.
Yes, in Israel, like when you just send an email, like you're waiting 10 minutes, you want to see a reply.
Sometimes
it's not always like that, but
5 minutes, right?
you used to hear, I'm asking one of my team, okay, it's been 2 days, did you reply? No, let's wait 2 more days at least. Okay. So this is something you need to get used to, and you need to explain it also to the Israeli partners. Of course, there are many Israeli companies working here. They understand that. We're happy to see that, although it takes time, we see results. Just recently, we heard about two great investments. Each was $5 million, and in Israeli companies that came from here, from Spain. So, this is like amazing to hear about, to hear that the connections we do get results. So, yeah, I think there is huge potential, and we still have a lot to do.
I will add one thing. Sometimes in Israel, they answer your email before you send it. and that's really amazing, because they really know what you want. So
if I may add something
to
what Noah said, I think that from the private sector, we are starting to see Spanish corporations showing much more interest in Israeli technology and trying to find a way to implement them in their companies. We represent Spanish corporations from all over the world, and until the last 2 years, we didn't see much of Spanish companies really having a man on the ground or doing actual investments in Israeli technology, and we have closed an investment by Telefonica in the last 2 or 3 months in Israel. We represent Spanish corporations that do want to implement Israeli technology and are finding their way to do that.
Yeah. We have to understand that Israel is the Israeli technology. Sometimes it's what is called dual technology. It's a technology that came from defense and military and homeland security and now has a civil use. But the market is worldwide. So you cannot think about the Israeli market. You need to think about the worldwide market. For me, that's a key difference between the Spanish startup and the Israeli startup. They are multinational from the very beginning. I was going to ask you, Ilana, with this knowledge of Israel, Latin America, nobody's perfect being from Uruguay. So what you see that shocks you more in terms of how the business is done? We have some music, so.
We'll manage. I think that we can, when Spanish people get to Israel and when Israel people get to Spain, the first thing that they see is that they're all warm people and they can get along very, very well. But that is in the street. And as Noah said, the difference in rhythm, in work, are one of the main gaps that we help overcoming when we work with both. I think that the rhythm is the main difference in the.
No, I think I agree with that. It's B2B, I think Jeremy mentioned, it's high tech, and the product is embedded in products of services of other companies and processes of multinational companies.
I think that also, one more thing, I think that mainly Spanish corporations reach out to Israel. So they adding to the cultural differences, we have the differences between startups and corporations that are the same all over the world. Startups have their distinctive ways of working, and corporations their distinctive ways of working, and the pros and cons need to ensemble in a good way in order for that to work well.
Noah, can you tell us a little bit about the relationship between Spain and Israel in terms of innovation, general business?
So, as we said, we see that it's growing and developing. That a lot is happening more than in the past, and there is a lot of potential happening. I wanted to also refer to from the government perspective, it's important to understand that the government in Israel, we don't tend to interfere in the market, okay? What we try to do is enable it. We don't try to lead it, we try to enable it. And I think also here in the relationship, what we try to do is create more opportunities that will assist to these connections, etc., through the different events that we do.
Thank you very much.
Si puedo añadir elementos. Yo tengo
Sí.
como más de 15 años conectando el ecosistema israelí con el ecosistema español, más de 15 años. Y hemos visto a nivel de KPI cómo ha crecido el interés de conectar el ecosistema español con israelí. Antes de la pandemia, yo tenía más de 7 misiones que yo llevaba a nivel de gobiernos, empresas, hacia Israel. Una de las actividades también que hacemos dentro de nuestro fondo de inversión de ACRA, hacemos un summit anual, ¿no? Algunos KPIs les puedo comentar, por ejemplo, que cuando empezamos hace 5 años, nuestro fondo teníamos 66 personas interesadas de ir a nuestro evento. El último evento que hemos realizado, más de 180 personas han venido desde España hacia Israel para conectar con Israel. Y el crecimiento ha sido. Entonces hay un crecimiento muy interesante de Israel, de conectar, de aprender el modelo, y he visto con carne propio cómo hay este crecimiento. Y creo que va a haber el seguimiento de ese crecimiento durante el tiempo.
Bueno, también podemos contar que hay ahora, por ejemplo, vamos a tener en 11 días, tenemos un evento que Madrid, we have an event, the languages. I'm sorry, we have a really interesting event that Madrid is hosting, Madrid Open City, together with different partners. It's called Madrid in the New Middle East, and it's Madrid, Emirates, and Israel together. So I think this is like great opportunity, and it's a great thing that is happening, you know. It's showing the ecosystem that we're willing to cooperate, that we support this cooperation.
Yeah, this is a brilliant idea. I mean, Madrid was very important in the relationship and the Abraham Accords, and taking that to the economic side with the Emirati type of capital, Israeli technology, and Spanish business. So it's a new perspective of things that can be done. We don't have much time. We have 5 minutes. Jeremy, from all your knowledge, if you have to point out one single thing of the public policy in Israel that made a real difference, what will it be?
Well, the public policy is policy. So that what just said, the fact that Israel is not toxic by trying to put policies and stack different rules. I think that what we saw. What we understood is that there's already a lot of investments in Israel. And so attracting more investments is no more the big challenge. The big challenge is to connect the Israeli technologies to the world, of course, as usual. But mostly the human capital angle is the number one challenge. And so the policies today, we believe, the first priority of the Israeli ecosystem to keep on growing and to remain the startup nation is to overcome this challenge. Because for many years already, all the engineers have a job. So it's great to double the investments every year in Israel, but if we cannot hire engineers, that makes no sense. And today, the salaries of the engineers in Israel are also very high, and in most of the cases, in most of the sectors, they're even the highest in the world. So any policies that would ease bringing more talents to the Israeli ecosystem, around bringing more women, more Israeli Arabs, more Orthodox Jews, more 45 plus, more immigrants to the high tech. This is the top priority today for the Israeli high tech. And so that's definitely
No, thank you. We have it. So I don't know if there's any question here. There's a question there. If we can give them the microphone. I cannot see very well, but please.
Hola.
Hola.
¿En español o en inglés?
En
Inglés.
Okay, thank you very much. Once I asked a very famous investor what was the best entrepreneurship school in the world, and he told me the Israeli IDF, the military service. So in terms of what does the government do, I think that is a very straightforward answer of what is happening in Israel. What advice in those terms do you think Israel could give other countries?
I don't know. Ilana, you want to?
I'll take it. I think that I'm glad for other countries that they don't have to send their kids to the army at 18 years old. But that's right. The IDF, it's a huge school for life and for high tech. The responsibility that they acquire and the lack of hierarchy, the fact that 19-year-old kids are responsible and in charge for the life of their peers of 18 years old, I think that they take that, because not everyone goes to the high-tech sectors of the IDF. But I think that it's much more than the specific knowledge that they acquire in the IDF.
Yeah, I think it's part of the ecosystem, and the IDF makes certainly a very important part of that. Not so much the ITF, but the technology units, what they do and their responsibilities. Noah, you also have a good perspective of that. I don't know if there's any other question or you want to answer that one?
No, I actually agree with Ilana about the...
Any other questions for any of the panelists? Okay, so...
I wanted to refer to the prior question that you asked about the government. So I think it's important to know that the government is working mainly through the Israeli Innovation Authority. And actually, when I joined the government, which was about 12 years ago, it was
30
part
seconds
of...
you have.
Okay, it was part of the Israeli Ministry of Economy. And today, it's an independent entity. And this is very important. Why? Because people can be replaced easier, and they bring people from the private sector, okay? So they bring with them different spirit, you know? It's not government people who have been to the government for so many years. They come from the industry, they know how it works, they know what the company needs. So this is something that,
And they depend on political changes.
Exactly. So this is like something that, you know, other countries can copy, you know? Having in the government someone that is continuously coming from the industry is always very, very refreshing.
So if you guys need anything from Israel, you can refer to any of us, to Jeremy, to Isaac, to Noah, to Ilana, to me. It's a tremendous experience to be in Israel. It's hard to summarize in the time we have, but it gives you a very different perspective of vision of what you can do and where you can get to. And this is what we need in a country like Spain. So you're all welcome to Israel. If we can help you open your eyes, we have excellent experience of Spanish entrepreneurs and corporations going to Israel with a tremendous success. I remember one company that went to Israel, startup, couldn't do anything in Spain, went to Israel, and then ended up working with Facebook at the worldwide level, because all these big corporations are looking for innovation technology in Israel. So thank you all the panelists who are right on time.
Right.
Thank you very much to all of you to come, and
Thank you.
we'll see you.